Welcome to Fairways to Heaven with your host, Christian author and PGA member John Decker. Join John as he discusses all things golf, including useful instructional techniques and tips from your swing to a better game strategy. John will also talk about the importance of his faith and how it relates to his life and golf. So if you're a Christian who loves the game of golf or wants to learn how to play it, then this is the show for you. Now, please welcome the host of Fairways to Heaven, John Decker.
Welcome to the Fairways to Heaven Show. I'm your host, John Decker, and we are streaming live on Bold Brave TV. If you miss a show, please go to YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you stream your podcast to download a show. Now, this show is designed to help you improve your game while glorifying God. And I invite you to go to my website, deckergolf.com. Now, this website has my video library and has all of my videos, including videos on full swing, putting, chipping, pitching, bunker, course management, and golf fitness. Also on the website is information about my two books. My first book, Golf is My Life, Glorifying God Through the Game. And my second book that just came out last year, Fairways to Heaven, One Shot at a Time. There's information on my Bible study. I'm excited to say that I now have 16 churches and groups who are participating in my Bible study. Now, the Bible study is based on my first book, Golf is My Life. And there's also information on the website about speaking engagements. So if you're looking for a public speaker, I would love to come to your facility and speak. Now, I'd like to welcome all of those listening on social media to the live broadcast. Whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn, welcome to the show. Now, last week, our show was show number 12, and the theme last week was grace. And we talked about technology and the forgiveness of the modern day drivers, as well as the wedges, including the loft and the bounce. I showed a video describing how to hit a high pitch shot off of a tight lie. My special guest last week was Maddie Schultz. Maddie is a recent graduate and current player for Youngstown State women's golf team. And then in the final segment, I talked about the difference between golf and God's grace. Now, if you've missed any of the first 12 shows, again, I invite you to go to deckergolf.com or please subscribe to my YouTube channel, John Decker Golf Instruction, so you'll be notified when a new show is released and you'll never miss another episode. Now, today's show is coming to you live from Columbus, Ohio, where I'm teaching here from April through November, and I'll be teaching at the Medallion Club, and that's in Westerville, Ohio. And then in December, I'll return back to Florida, to Naples, Florida, teaching at the Dennis Meyer Golf School. And so if you live in the Ohio area, or if you live in the Florida, Naples area, and you want to do some golf instruction, feel free to reach out to me on deckergolf.com. I'd love to see you in person and work with you. But for those of you around the country or even around the world who are interested in online instruction, again, if you go to deckergolf.com, my online instruction is on there as well. Now, I'm a proud member of the PGA of America and have been since 1997, senior editor for Golf Tips Magazine, and a Christian author. Now, this show is designed to be interactive, so I would invite you, the audience, to call in. And the number is on the screen. It's 1-866-451-1451. If you call that number, we'll try to answer your question during today's show. Or you can simply go to the live chat feature and type in a question. We'd love to have, again, any golf-specific questions, or they could be faith-based questions as well. Or you can email me at deckergolf.com, and I will get to that in a future show. If I can't get to any of that today, I'll make sure and answer your questions in a future show. Now, every show that we do, or every show that I've done so far, has a theme, and today's theme is power and touch. And in the first segment, I'm going to talk about the power in the full swing and the touch in the short game. And then in the second and third segment, I have my special guest. He's returned guest, and his name is Ted Odorico. He is the owner and CEO of iGolf Sports Network. And then in the final segment, we're going to talk about the power and touch of Jesus Christ. Now, every show that I have completed, we have scripture. I'm losing my thought here. Every show we have scripture, and today's scripture is from Luke chapter 8, verses 45 and 46. And again, this comes from the New King James Version. And Jesus said, "Who touched me?" When all denied it, Peter and those with him said, "Master, the multitudes throng and press you, and you say, 'Who touched me?'" But Jesus said, "Somebody touched me, for I perceived power going out from me." Now, since day one of this show, my pledge to you, the audience, is that this is a Christian golf show. And so every show is going to have a heavy emphasis on golf instruction. So let's get right into some golf instruction. Again, today's theme, we're going to talk about power and touch. And in the full swing, we're trying to maximize our power. We want to hit the ball with our driver as far as we possibly can. But in the short game, we're trying to control our power. So it's very different. First, let's talk about the full swing. Now, I often describe the full swing like I'm opening a jar. Imagine if I'm holding a jar with one hand, and then I take my other hand and I use my other hand to turn the top of the jar. I want you to think of the jar or the glass as your lower body, and I want you to think of the top as your upper body. So with one hand, I'm holding the glass and I'm resisting. And with the other hand, I'm moving or turning. Well, the golf swing is the same way. The lower body is resisting and the upper body is turning. So let's go to the video that I've shot, Caleb, video number 1, and we're going to talk more about power in the full swing. Hi, I'm John Decker, PGA instructor and author of the book, Golf Is My Life, Glorifying God Through the Game. Today I want to work with you on your full swing, and I want to talk about the left leg and what I call posting up. You hear a lot of teachers call this posting up, or I like to think of it as sticking your finish. I want to finish with my left leg straight, my knees together, and my weight off my right foot. So the feeling that I like to have is when I go back is I let my left heel lift just a little bit. This is going to allow me to make a nice shoulder turn, and as I come through, I want to straighten that left leg, and I want to turn all my weight so that I get in that finish. I don't want my weight to go back into my right leg, and I certainly don't want to slide this way. Now I can't turn my hips. And if I can get my weight on that front leg, I'm going to hit a solid shot every time, just like this. Focus on this left leg finish, and you're definitely going to hit it more solid. So as you can tell in the full swing, again, we're using the lower body to resist more. I do let my left heel come off the ground just a little bit. That helps me to get a better shoulder turn, especially if you're a little bit older, maybe have some flexibility issues. Lifting that left heel up will help you to get that shoulder turn, just like the jar. You're turning the jar. But then in the downswing, the lower body really actively turns and unleashes all that power. So hopefully that video will help you in your full swing. So now let's talk about the short game. Now the short game is totally different. I'm not really going to get into club selection in the short game for today's topic, but I am going to talk about the touch of the short game and about controlling your distance. No matter what club you're using, whether it's a pitching wedge or an 8-iron or a sand wedge around the green, we want to be able to control our distance. So I often, with a lot of my students, will actually have them toss a ball, because tossing a ball and pitching or chipping are very similar motions. Also in putting, sometimes I'll have a student on the green just roll a ball along the green. That helps them with their touch. I shot a video last year, a few years ago actually. And so Caleb, let's go to video number 2 talking about the short game. Hi, I'm John Decker, PGA instructor and author of the book, Golf Is My Life, Glorifying God Through the Game. Today I want to work with you on a drill. It's called the right side progression drill. I've got 3 balls here, and I'll talk about the drill in a moment. But as far as the technique of the swing goes, I'm going to start my swing. I'm going to hit these shots with only my right hand. I'm going to swing back and with my back and shoulders, and I'm going to let my wrist, I'm going to let the momentum of the club hinge my wrist, and my wrists are going to go to right here, and then I'm going to turn and make a tossing motion, just like this. Now, the idea of the 3 balls is to help you with your touch so that you're not thinking about your technique. So I'm going to make a practice swing, hit the shot, make a practice swing, hit the shot, and go from there, just like this. Work on the right side progression drill. So remember, pitching around the green is just like tossing a ball. Try that drill. You can do it with one hand. You can do it with 2 hands as well. But that's a great progression drill to help you get better touch in your short game. Now, for those of you who might be listening to the show and you can't see the videos, if you'd like to watch any of those videos, again, please go to YouTube and subscribe to my channel, John Decker Golf Instruction, or go to deckergolf.com. All of those videos are on my website. Well, folks, it's time for our first break. And when we return, we're going to talk with our special guest, Ted Odorico. I'm your host, John Decker. You're watching Fairways to Heaven. We'll be right back.
Mike Zorek, a 3-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a 6-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2 thirds, and 2 fourths. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorek, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorek has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk on the BBM Global Network.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back to Fairways to Heaven. I'm your host, John Decker, and now it's time to bring on today's special guest, Ted Odorico. But before I do, I want to read you a brief bio of Ted's accomplishments. Ted is the founder and CEO of iGolf Sports Network and iGolfsports.com. He's the executive producer and host for Golf Talk Live and the Women of Golf Show. And he's a corporate and motivational speaker and author. Ted, welcome to Fairways to Heaven.
Well, thank you, John, and thank you for having me back. I think this is third time, so third time a charm is.
Third time's
a
charm.
That's right. I think how the saying goes. So thank you very much for having me. I always enjoy doing your show.
Well, we love having you on, and you always have a lot of great insight. Before we get started in today's show, I just wanted to ask you if you had the opportunity to watch the PGA Championship, and if you did, what you thought about Scottie Scheffler's performance.
You know what? I'm embarrassed to say this. No, I didn't. I didn't get a chance. I'm too busy, unfortunately. But I did read some of the comments and things coming out. You know, Scotty, you know, from what I've seen him over the years is just incredible. I don't think I've ever seen a player. You know, they always talk about Rory and they talk about Tiger and that, but Scotty Scheffler just seems to have such a calmness about him, which is almost, in a way, it's almost eerie a little bit, because it's like I've never seen anybody so. He's always seems to be very relaxed. Now I don't know about the PGA. I mean, I'm sure you got to watch it, but how he conducted himself then. But you know, when you see him in other events, it's just amazing how calm and relaxed he appeared. Now maybe on the inside he might be, you know, a bubbling furnace, but I don't think so, because when he was interviewed earlier this season, you know, he talked about how he's just kind of a you know, just a level type personality, and that's rare, and especially in any sort of competitive sports.
It's very important in golf, and golf is really in a good place right now. I love the fact that, you know, you had Rory winning the Masters, and then you have Scotty winning, two fan favorites and two guys that are very important for the PGA Tour. So I know the PGA Championship has got to be, or the PGA of America, excuse me, has got to be thrilled to have you know, Scotty represent them, you know, as a champion now. So let's get into today's show a little bit. Today's theme is power and touch, and I've been teaching for 30 years now, and I've never had a student tell me that they hit the golf ball too far. So in this first segment, we're going to talk a lot about power in the golf swing, and in your opinion, what are some of the examples you see from your students where they waste or lose power in their golf swing?
I think one of the common things, and I think anybody in our line of work would probably agree with this. I see a lot of players swing to the point where they're almost stepping out of their shoes. I mean, they're just trying to kill it. And as much as, you know, we all enjoyed John Daly, I think one of the worst sayings that ever came in golf was grip it and rip it, because it gave people the misunderstanding, is I guess the best way to put it, of, okay, I'm just going to grip and I'm just going to swing for the fences. But if you really look at John Daly's swing, he has very great rhythm and very incredible timing. So it looks like he's really ripping it, but he's really not. And same thing with the Freddie Couples and some of the other guys. They're really not just swinging for the hills. It's all about tempo and rhythm. What I see a lot of golfers, or I think what a lot of golfers misunderstand, is we each have our own body rhythms. Some are have a little faster rhythm. Some have a little bit slower tempo and rhythm to their body. And if you want to gain more power, or as I look to it, if more rotational speed through your golf swing, you've got to work on a couple of things. So number one, you've got to work on your core. I mean, we see a lot of guys out there that have very weak cores and very weak, particularly lower backs. And it's very hard to make good rotational swing in order to generate more club head speed. Also, your legs are in there, and I think a lack of flexibility, especially as we get older, we start to lose a lot of flexibility. And once you start losing that, then it's very hard to generate more power. So what ends up happening is, in order to make up for it, they tend to try to, you know, engage their upper body, their arms particularly, to try to snap that golf ball. And what ends up happening is it's going all over the place. And I want to very quickly point out, I was listening to the early part of this show, and you talked about the jar and how, you know, the bottom of the jar is stable like the base of the golf swing, and then the upper body, obviously the lid. That's a great analogy, because again, a lot of people are all over the place. Their body's going, their legs are going, and there's really no synchronization between the two. So you have to really understand how to generate that torque, if you will, when you're going into the backswing. And if you lack flexibility, that's very hard to do. And I like also what you pointed out, and again, very Nicholas, in your analogy, in your video, is you talked about lifting that left heel. Very important to understand, though, it's as a result of the turn. It's not something that you consciously do. We see a lot of players do that. Okay, I'm going to lift the heel up and then I'm going to make my turn. That's not what it's talking about. You're talking about really as a result to get that additional shoulder or upper body turn. And that's something that's very, very important, especially as we get older.
Very, very good point there, Ted. You're exactly right. The left heel is something I see a lot of younger players try to keep both feet on the ground. But when you do that, I mean, that puts a lot of pressure on your back. You might be able to do it when you're 15, but when you get 45, 55, 60, it's a lot more difficult. So, allow I love the way like a Sam Snead and would kind of lift the heel, and you'd see Hogan lift it, and you'd see Bobby Jones lift it, and it helped them to really make a nice shoulder turn. So that's a great point. Let's talk about the tee height. How important is tee height with your driver? How important is that for power?
I look at, I'll use Tiger as an example. Tiger never really raised the tee super high like you see a lot of the modern players. I mean, obviously, if you want to get more height, and if you really want to, you see some of these younger guys out on tour now, and I mean, they're just, like I said, swinging for the fences. They're still keeping within their own body rhythm. And to get that extra distance, they're raising the tees up quite a bit. I mean, or the ball quite a bit up on tees. I'm a firm believer, I think, for most golfers, especially our amateur golfers, that you don't want to have it too high. I mean, you want to have it so that the top half of the ball is just a little bit above the top of the club of the driver. Anymore, if you start getting the whole ball or even further above, what ultimately ends up happening is if you don't get your timing right or you don't get your hand-eye coordination correct, then you're either swinging underneath and you're hitting some funky shot, or you're topping the ball because you're trying to get up on it too much. So I like to have it where maybe even the top of the ball, like Tiger does, if you watch how he tees it up, the top of his ball is almost even with the top of his driver. And with today's big drivers, because it's so deep now, it's still teed up quite a bit. And I mean, he was always a pretty long ball hitter on tour, as I recall. So, I think it is important to some degree, but I think it can be overdone.
Well, what I tell my students is I like to have the top of the club, which is called the top line, be at the equator of the ball. So if you take a range ball, most of them have like a stripe. If you get the top of the ball right to that stripe, if you put the equator there, that's a good starting point. Tiger likes to hit a cut, and if I want to cut the ball, I will tee the ball lower. But the average golfer already cuts it too much and slices it too much. So if they tee it low, so if you're a slicer, I can tell you right now, if you're a slicer, you want to tee the ball higher. You do not want to tee the ball lower, because that's going to create more of an angle of approach where you're hitting down on the ball. If you want to play a draw, you need to tee the ball higher. It helps you to hit more up on the ball. So tee height does make a difference. I think that, you have to obviously pay attention. If you're teeing off with a 3-wood or a hybrid, you're not teeing it high, you're teeing it low. So sometimes some players may not tee off with the driver. If you're using a 3-wood, I would definitely tee it lower. Let's talk about the fitness part of golf. And, a lot of the guys on tour now are using trainers. They have the TPI, which is the Titleist Performance Institute. They have a great training program and work for PGA professionals and for people who are maybe not PGA members, but are doctors or who work with sports movements. When you look at that, what are some of for the average golfer, what are some of your recommendations for someone wanting to increase their power by getting better in shape? Do you have any recommendations for that?
Yeah. I mean, obviously the majority of people out there don't have access to the trainers and that the guys and the gals do out in the tour. So, you can certainly connect. There's a lot of great instructors out there or others in the golf industry that are certified golf fitness professionals. You can certainly connect with one of them. Some teaching pros also have the TPI certification as well. So they're in many cases well-versed, depending on how far afield they've gone with it. But if you're somebody that doesn't have access to that and you just want to get, again, it goes back to what I said earlier, your core, and those are things that you can work on. Obviously, your diet is very, very important as well. I mean, you want to be eating good foods that are giving you energy. So that's number one, is you want to make sure, and I don't mean diet when I say that. I don't mean you have to, start shedding a ton of weight. Maybe some cases you might have to do a little bit of that. But for the most part, I'm just saying you got to eat a little bit healthier and eat foods that are going to give you and sustain energy. Because if you're not doing that, then you're not going to be able to get into, and you're not going to be as enthusiastic about doing anything that's going to help build up this thing. So I look at it this way. Cores, in my opinion, I think is a big one. And the best way I think to do that, forget about doing sit-ups and crunches and things like that. If you're 65, 70 years old, you're not getting on the floor and doing that. So there's other things that you can do, and it also works with flexibility. So for instance, what I used to do is I would stand behind a chair and I'm going to raise my arms up. So I would put my arms on the back of the chair, and I would stand perfectly straight. And what I would do, again, using the jar analogy, is I would not move my lower body, but I would turn until it just started to get a little bit uncomfortable, my upper body. So I'd rotate my shoulders and my upper body, keeping my lower body stable. And what that did is, and each time I'd go a little bit further. I don't want to go to the point where it really starts to hurt. I just wanted to go, there's some resistance. And then I would go the other way and I would do the same thing. And what that does, believe it or not, helps with this core, but it also helps with your flexibility. The other thing, what you can do is you could do, again, holding onto that chair, you can do some squats. You can do some, you want to do things safely. And there's a lot of exercise, things like weights and stuff like that. You can certainly do that, but you've got to be very careful. If you want to generate power, the real thing is you've got to have flexibility. And if you don't have flexibility, then what ends up happening is you get too tight, and then you're making other compensations in order to be able to generate through, because you're not able to get that complete shoulder turn. And that's what gets your power. If your shoulders are only going back, say 50% of the way or 60%, and they're not getting a 90-degree shoulder turn, then you're not able to generate as much club head speed. And when you do that, then you're not going to get the power that you want. So you've got to really work on your flexibility. And there's a lot of great instructors out there, as I said, that may be TPI certified that you can connect with. But you got to work on the core, you got to work on the legs, and you got to work on strengthening the back. And there's some great exercises out there, but you got to make sure that they're exercises that are conducive for golf and not just lifting and things like that, because that can have the opposite effect.
Yes, I love the way Scotty Scheffler is working out. I like it a lot better than the way Tiger and Rory are working out. You need to train and work out for your sport. These guys are not trying to play professional football or baseball or basketball. They're playing golf. And so flexibility and strength in the abs and in the butt and the legs, that's where you're going to get your power. And so Scotty does a lot of rotational work with bands, with any kind of band work you can do, I think is excellent. And there's a lot of great videos out there on that. If you go to my website, I've got quite a few on there as well on deckergolf.com. So that's some good stuff, Ted.
Let me just add real quick on about Scotty. I know that Scotty is an ambassador for Golf Forever, which is works with bands and that has a very good program. So if you go to Golf Forever, I believe it's golfforever.com, you can check out, and they have videos that walk you through, and they're very, very good. I've had them as a guest many times on the shows over the years, and I know that Scotty is an ambassador for them and uses their almost religiously their program. So that's somewhere you might want to look into as well for the listeners.
That's great advice. So I've got one more question before we go to break here. Does the golf grip play a major role in increasing power?
Now, are you talking about actually gripping the club, or are you talking about
the grip?
The grip?
Yes, the grip. No, I'm not talking about the grips. I'm talking about the golf grip, how you hold the club.
Yeah, for sure. You want to have a lighter golf grip. Too many players get the sort of the death grip. I'm trying to get it into the camera. Yeah. The death grip on it, and you're seeing their knuckles starting to go white because they're holding on too tight. And what happens is the wrists don't engage properly, and you need to have a certain amount of wrist hinge, both in the backswing, and also it needs to be able to come and release through the follow through and in through impact. And if you're not able to do that, if you got too tight of a grip, so yeah, you definitely need to loosen up the grip, and you almost want to feel because what people don't realize, and I think a lot of people don't realize this, is you can almost barely hold on to the golf grip. And when you swing a golf club, your body instinctively will actually tense up and tighten on that grip a little bit. So if you're already got a really tight golf grip, and then all of a sudden you're swinging the golf club, it actually grips tighter through the motion. So you want to grip on, that's where they came up with the analogy, feel like you're holding a little baby bird, is you want to have very light grip pressure, certainly enough to hold on to the club, but you don't want to have it so tight, because as you swing the golf club, it is naturally going to tighten up a little bit. But yeah, by definitely lightening up the golf grip itself, or how tight you hold on to the golf club, is going to make a huge difference on how much power you're going to be able to generate and how you engage the wrist properly. Otherwise, they're not going to engage properly, and you're going to lose distance.
And you definitely want to have the grip in the fingers, and you want to have the V. You want to have a stronger grip. I would rather my students have too strong of a grip, which is meaning the V's for a right-handed player are pointing toward your right shoulder, than having a weaker grip where the V's are pointing towards your chin or toward your left shoulder. That's going to promote more of a slice. So holding the club in the fingers, you're holding the club in the fingers so that you can't let go of the club, but your wrists are nice and relaxed so that the club can hinge back and through. So good stuff there, Ted, during the first segment. But we're coming up on our second break. And when we return, we're going to continue on today's special guest, Ted Odorico. I'm your host, John Decker. You're watching the Fairways to Heaven show. We'll be right back.
Dr. RC will share extraordinary resources and services that promote educational success, as well as making a difference in the lives of all social workers, as well as the lives of children, adolescents, and teens of today. She will have open discussions addressing many of the issues that we face about our youth and how being employed in the uniquely skilled profession of social work for over 18 years has taught invaluable lessons through her personal experiences. She will also provide real-life facts, examples, and personal stories that will confirm that why serving as a child advocate is extremely beneficial when addressing the needs of the whole child. Listen live to Dare to Soar, Saturdays, 10 a.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network, and TuneIn Radio as Dr. RC will provide thought-provoking information that will empower, encourage, and strengthen students, families, and communities across our nation. You can also visit her at soarwithkatie.com. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back to the Fairways to Heaven show. I'm your host, John Decker, and we are talking with the owner and CEO of Golf Tips Magazine, Ted Odorico. Now, Ted, today's theme is power and touch. And in the last segment, we talked about the power in the golf swing. But now I want to talk about the touch of the short game. I was taught when I was growing up to use a lot of different clubs around the greens. I would use 8 irons, 9 irons, pitching wedges, sand wedges. But today's younger players tend to want to hit the ball higher, with their lob wedges around the green. Do you think that chipping is a lost art in the game of golf?
I don't know if it's a lost art, but I think what's happened is a lot of the younger players, see the tour pros because they're hitting these high loft lob shots that are going, way up in the air and then, coming down and landing close to the hole. And they want to emulate that. And that's a lot more difficult shot than what most people realize. And I'm a firm believer, the more you can keep the ball on the ground, certainly when you get around the green. I mean, obviously if you're out in the fairway, it's a little bit different, but if you can, whenever possible, if you can putt it, that's ideal. But sometimes you have to chip the ball. And if you've got a few, maybe 2, 3, 4 feet that you've got to, whether it's a collar and maybe you're a little off the collar and you've got to get over that, sometimes putting is not an option. So you need to have a good chipping game. And depending on where the hole is cut, if it's close by particularly, you might have to have a little bit more lofted club. If it's a little bit further on where you can hit a low running shot, you want to get it on that green and rolling like a putt as quick as possible. So you don't want to be using a lob wedge. You might want to use a 9 iron or an 8 iron, depending on how far away it is. So you want to get it and almost like a bump and run, and you want to get it rolling pretty quick. So I think what it is, it's kind of like driving the ball. It's kind of sexy, if you will. Everybody wants to bomb it out a mile, but it may not be for everybody, and you have to find what works for you. I'm a firm believer. I use all different types of clubs, depending on the circumstances I just pointed out. So I think it's not so much a lost art as opposed to, I think, people are just not being realistic with their expectations, and they're trying to emulate what they're seeing on TV. And if you don't have the skill set to match, you're just not, you're not going to be successful. So you have to, do what works.
Yeah, I think it's important when you're practicing to practice, from different areas and use different clubs. Don't just do a one way, I'm going to hit every shot high. And there are times when you have to, but I
Sure.
agree with you 100%. It's much easier to play golf on the ground than it is in the air. That's why we putt when we get on the green. I don't ever see people try to hit the ball in the air when they're putting, because it's much easier to roll the ball to the hole than it would be to hit it in the air. Well, the same is true when you're off the green. So learning how to use, pitching wedges, 9 irons, 8 irons in situations where you have a lot of green to work with, I think will help you in your game. So let's talk a little bit about practicing the short game. What are some of your favorite drills when you practice or when you work with students for the short game?
I think for me, what I like to do, and I try to encourage my students, one of the biggest, I guess, nemesis in golf is what we see on the driving range so often is people just sort of raking and hitting balls. And you have to make it, I like what you said a minute ago, practicing different types of shots and things like that, because you're never going to be faced with the same one each and every time. So as an example, you might have 3 or 4 balls that are 4 feet off of the green. So now I know, okay, I need to hit it, and it's a club ball. So I'm going to try to hit those high shots. And I like the drill that you did with the right arm. I think that's great. Just a quick practice swing to kind of get the feel of it, and then step up and execute it. And don't worry so much about where it goes all the time. It's just about generating and building that tempo and that rhythm. The key thing that for people that are trying to learn how to chip properly, one of the things that they have to do, unlike the normal plane of a golf swing where you're sort of a little bit more around your body, this is a more vertical, it's more up and down. So you have to stand a little bit closer to the ball. And so I want to encourage people to practice that, standing closer to the ball, and feel like the club shaft is almost not 100% vertical, but it's not, on a more of an angle like you would. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get in front of the camera so people can see it. So a lot of times we see people with the shaft going like that. In a chipping, you want it to be a little bit more, not quite 100%, but you want to be a little bit more upright. And what you also want to do is you want to be able to, as you're going through, you're pulling a little bit left. What I often see too many people do is they'll go like a putting stroke where they'll go straight back and straight through on a chip. Well, you don't really want to do that unless it's a really short chip shot, because what ultimately ends up doing is you're not getting a good follow through. And I see a lot of people falling back. So by pulling it to left, the club as it goes through impact, what that does, that forces you to get on to your front side a little bit better and into a good finish. So there's a lot of great drills out there. I know you've got a ton of them up on your website, deckergolf.com, and definitely want to encourage people to go and check those out after the broadcast. But there's a lot of different drills, but the main thing is you got to mix it up, and you got to challenge yourself and not do the same thing each and every time. And I think that way, but the main thing is you got to get out there and practice. And as we always say, practice with purpose.
Well, that's some great advice, Ted. One of the things that I really want, and I appreciate the plug for deckergolf.com, because I want to talk a little bit about your website with Golf Tips Magazine. And Caleb, let's go ahead and put up the QR code, if you would, please. The magazine has gone from print and now is gone to the digital format. So I want you to take you have time here to just tell us a little bit about how this website can help the average golfer improve their game.
Well, basically, thank you for the opportunity. So Golf Tips magazine has been around for a little over 35 years. I took ownership of it about 5 years ago, literally right on the cusp of the pandemic. And it was in print and digital format. And one of the things that I found over the last several years, not just with Golf Tips, but with other magazines as well, is there had been a decline in readership of actual publications. More golfers are going online, whether it's through YouTube channels or whether it's through some other platform like your website and obviously now golftipsmag.com. And what I wanted to be able to do was I decided late last year that we were not going to print or publish the magazine in its form, has been for years, and rather we're going to take all of those great instructional articles and tips and videos and things like that and bring them more of them onto our website. So really what I wanted to do was to change the format and make it 100% digital. So the actual digital publication, the digital magazine, is not also and it's not technically print, but being formatted either. It's all completely online. So all of the instructional articles, whether it's something that you're submitting you personally as one of the senior editors, that is now going up online. And it's just because, again, we're finding that the readership, as it's getting older, more and more of them are getting, some of them are getting out of golf, so they're not really interested in reading the publications. So we have to prepare for a new generation, and that's what Golf Tips Mag is designed to do. So the website is essentially free to everybody. You go to golftipsmag.com. There's a ton of free content. I'll tell you a little bit about some of it here in a moment. But there's also, to replace the subscription model of the magazine, there is a premium membership offer. So there's 3 levels. There's silver, gold, and platinum. And it ranges $14.95, $24.95, and $49.95. And that's for a year. That's not monthly. So it's a one-time shot each year. So it's easier on the pocketbook, and you don't have to sit and see that charge coming out of your account every month. So that's kind of a nice thing. And what you get for that is you get a number of different things. I'm really, really excited about this. In addition to seeing all the great free stuff, there's going to be a lot of premium content that's behind the scenes that everyday golfers are not going to have the opportunity to see. Also, I'm really excited to announce a number of premium partners that have come on board, and I can announce many of them right now as they've officially come on. ShotScope is one of them, who is a great company who produces some great technology, rangefinders, watches, you name it. They've got all the technology there. They're coming on as a premium partner. Karen Palacios Jansen, who is the founder and creator of Cardio Golf. So if you're wanting to get fit, stretch, all that kind of stuff, she's going to be producing some videos for golftipsmag.com. And also True Linkswear, which is a company that provides some great shoes and other products as well. They've become very big in the industry as well. They're coming on. Encore Golf, which of course produces some great new golf balls on the market. Some really exciting technology coming on that. We actually just had one of the co-founders, Steve Colton, on the show yesterday on the Women of Golf, and he's talking about a new Genius golf ball that's going to be coming out this fall. And I'm not going to get into it. I won't pre-launch, but it's really the technology that's going in this golf ball is just unbelievable. So what all of these partners, and there's many others that are going to be coming on board as well, but those are just a few of them. What's the benefit for a lot of our premium members, and why you want to use that premium QR code up in the corner and register today under one of those options, is all of these premium partners and more that are coming on board are going to be offering exclusive discounts to Golf Tips Magazine premium members. So whether you're silver, gold, or platinum, there's going to be a special offer for each of you to either partake in some of the products or services that they're offering. We're also bringing on board some travel partners as well. But the magazine has basically gone fully digital, where it's now everything is online, because we're going where the market is. We're meeting them where they are. The print magazine, I hate to say it, old guys like us, John, very few of them are flipping through the magazines. I go out to the newsstands and I see, many of the publications, not just golf, but many publications are still hanging on the walls and on the shelves, and they're just not moving. And, it's just the cost is just too much. And we're looking at a way of, again, meeting golfers where they're going. And it's just been very, very successful. I relaunched the website earlier this year, and the numbers are just shooting through the roof each and every month. So I'm really, really excited about that. And if you scan the QR code up in the top corner, again, you can register for silver, gold, or platinum level. And again, it's very well priced. And if you're somebody that's still a little bit shy, you can register as a free member as well. They have that option as well. And you have the option to upgrade at any time. But there's a lot of great information on there, a lot of great stuff, and a lot of great ways to help the golfers out there become better golfers.
That's great information, Ted, and thank you very much for letting us know about it, because you're exactly right. People are now going online. Everything is online. That's where they want to get their information. So I think that was a good move. So I've got 2 questions here. I have not asked you. This is your 3rd time on, but I've not asked you this question yet. So I wanted to ask you. If you could play any golf course in the world, you only had 1 round of golf to play, where would you play? What golf course?
Only 1 round?
Yeah.
It would have to be Augusta National.
Yeah,
Augusta National would be number 1, and then God, I just drew a blank. In California,
Pebble Beach.
Pebble Beach. Yeah, I'm sorry, I drew a blank. I've never played Pebble Beach, those would be my two bucket list courses. But in the order I said, it would be it'd be Augusta National first, and then Pebble Beach would be right there behind it. In fact, if I could fly fast enough, I'd play both in one day.
All right, so we only got a little bit of time here, like 30 seconds. What would be your foursome? You could have a dream foursome, yourself included, and it could be someone dead or alive. What would be your foursome?
I think Bobby Jones would be good. I think Sam Snead would be good. Nicholas would be good. And Arnold Palmer.
Yeah. All right. Well, that sounds great. That sounds like a great group of people to play. That's a fivesome if you're going to play, but but if you're playing Augusta, they won't care if you're at Augusta if you play a fivesome.
I'll carry the 4 bags if I have to. I don't care. I just want to be
exactly.
Pick their brain.
Well, Ted, thank you again for coming on the show. You did a great job as always. And but it's now time for our final break. And when we return, I want to talk about power and touch of Jesus Christ. You're watching Fairways to Heaven on Bold Brave TV. I'm your host, John Decker. We'll be right back.
Mike Zorek, a 3-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a 6-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2 thirds, and 2 fourths. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorek, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorek has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk on the BBM Global Network.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back to the Fairways to Heaven show on Bold Brave TV. I'm your host, John Decker, and a special thank you to Ted Odorico, the owner and CEO of iGolf Sports Network, for coming on today's show. Now, I want to talk to you about the power and touch of Jesus Christ. Now, as a PGA instructor for almost 30 years, I have taught a lot of people who can hit the ball a long way. And I've also taught a lot of people who have really good short games and have really good touch. But I have taught very few people who have both, power and touch. Finding that combination of a power and touch is very rare. When I think of power and touch, I think of Jesus and my recent reading of the Gospel of Luke. And in Luke 8, we find 2 stories that are combined into one, power and touch. Now, this chapter is very unique. In fact, I don't know of another part of the New Testament where 2 stories are combined about Jesus are combined into one chapter. And this is very unique, very, very much like the person who can hit the ball a long way and has a feathery touch around the greens. That's how unique it is. In Luke 8, Jesus at this point in his life is like a rock star at this point. He has been performing these miracles and people are around him because of these miracles he's performed. And the word is out. And Jesus and his disciples were in the streets, and they were surrounded by a large crowd of people. And suddenly, a ruler of the synagogue named Jairus comes to Jesus and falls at his feet. And he begs Jesus to come save his only child, his teenage daughter who is dying. And Jesus and his disciples follow Jairus to his home, and the crowd eagerly follows in anticipation of another miracle. Now, Luke states in chapter 8 that the multitudes thronged him as he made the journey to Jairus' home. Now, a woman who had been bleeding for 12 years spent all of her money on physicians, and she believed that all she had to do was reach out and touch Jesus and that she would be healed. And as he walked by, she reached out and just touched the very hem of his robe. And it states in Luke chapter 8, verses 45 and 46, and Jesus said, "Who touched me?" When all denied it, Peter and those with him said, "Master, the multitudes throng and press you, and you say, 'Who touched me?'" But Jesus said, "Somebody touched me, for I perceive power going out from me." Now this woman is healed immediately and falls at his feet and confesses that it was she that had touched him. And in verse 48 of chapter 8, Jesus states, "Daughter, be of good cheer. Your faith has made you well. Go in peace." Now, I recently learned from the David Jeremiah Study Bible that this is the first time in the New Testament that Jesus refers to a female as his daughter, meaning because of her faith, she is now part of the family. Just as Jesus finished speaking to the woman, someone arrives and tells Jairus his daughter is now dead. And Jesus tells Jairus, "Do not be afraid, only believe, and she will be made well." So Jesus arrives at Jairus' home and tells the people at Jairus' home that the girl is only sleeping, but the people ridiculed him. And Jesus asked the people to leave. And Jesus says, "Little girl, arise," and she is resurrected. Now, these two individual miracles in Luke 8 combine into one amazing story. They reveal the power of Jesus Christ and the trust of a desperate woman, a woman who put all of her faith in Jesus by simply touching his garment. They also illustrate the power of believing in the Word of God as Jesus came through with his promise to a once grieving father while others ridiculed him. Put your faith in Jesus Christ. Let his power lead you as he touches your heart. Well, once again, we've reached the 18th hole of today's episode. Thank you for watching the Fairways to Heaven show on Bold Brave TV. Until next time, I'm your host, John Decker. God bless.
This has been Fairways to Heaven with host John Decker. Tune in each week for the very best in the game of golf, including fundamentals and solid game advice that John will share for a better and more satisfying game. Wednesdays, 9 a.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network, powered by B2 Studios.